Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
A husband hires a detective to follow his wife, and this is what it turns into. Today's story has a similar plot. Enjoy the show! Dad said, "My daughter Sasha, you must come to school tomorrow to meet my new teacher." "What happened to your old teacher, Mrs. Greendale?" I asked. "Her husband suffered a heart attack, so she must stay home and care for him throughout the school year," she answered. I liked Mrs. Greendale. She was an old school teacher, none of these newfangled whims and parents. I never had to go to school unless Sasha did something particularly stupid. "Can your mom meet her at PTA meetings?" I asked. "I would prefer that you meet her. Mom has been acting so strange lately," Sasha said. "Okay, Angel, I'll try to look there, but I don't promise anything," I said. Meetings with teachers are clearly your mother's responsibility. I'm Lucas McCain. I am a sales representative at Devlin International. I'm 35, but I feel like I'm 50. I'm about 5 feet 10 inches tall, with brown hair and eyes. I'm in good shape thanks to my daily runs, and I love my wife and daughter more than anything else. My wife Dana was one of the activists of the school's parent committee, or whatever they call it now. Dana was just under 5 feet tall, although she claimed otherwise. Every time I measured her, she was 4 feet 11 inches. She was curvy with a prominent figure that I loved to hug. We were married for 14 years and spoiled our daughter for the last 10 of them. We only had 8 years left until Sasha left for college. Then Dana and I could walk around the house without anything like a mother gave birth and spend time making love on all the pieces of furniture. Sasha was right about one thing: Dana had indeed been acting strangely lately. The last time she acted like this was when she was pregnant with Sasha. She tried to sort through everything we needed to have and do to make the pregnancy easier before telling me. I'm probably to blame for this because I never showed interest in children, but from the first day my little angel was born, right after I personally cut her umbilical cord and spanked her butt, she became a daddy's girl. Dana came in a little later and immediately went to the shower. She started doing this more often, maybe once or twice a week. I didn't think much of it because women always take many more baths and showers than men. Now that I think about it, I was probably stupid or at least clueless, but let's face it, most of us are like that. We get married because we love the other person so much that we want them to be a permanent part of our lives. Part of this love is the fact that we trust them in many ways. We trust them not to harm us. We trust them to be faithful to us. We just never expect the person we vow to spend the rest of our lives with to stab us in the back. Let's face it, love makes us careless. If you are constantly looking around and waiting for the apple of your eye to change, your old attitude is rubbish. Kick that out right now. Believe me, trust me, if you can't let your guard down around her, you don't really love her. I'm sure that a lot of you guys are thinking, if my old lady was running after me, I would know it. Well, when this happens to you, trust me, you will be as clueless as I am, but probably not as lucky. Anyway, the next day I showed up at Sasha's school just in time to pick her up. The only thing I had to do after I got there was pick my jaw off the floor. The woman in front of Sasha's class was the most beautiful creature I had ever seen. She was wearing jeans and a nice blouse. I sat and looked at her for a long time before I realized that she was talking to me. When I was growing up, they simply didn't make teachers like that. She was tall, at least for a woman. She would have been about 5 feet 8 inches and much slimmer than Dana. Not that I'm comparing them or anything, but she was great, yes, that's the right word, amazing, even. "Dad," Sasha snapped, "Miss Marshall is talking to you." "Oh, sorry," I stuttered. I just had a moment. "Sasha's dad, Mr. McCain." Lucas McCain, but you can just call me Luke." I extended my hand, and she shook it warmly and gave me another smile. Damn, she should be selling those smiles. "Sorry for calling you here on such short notice," she said, smiling again. "I'm new here, but the school takes parental involvement very seriously. Sasha is probably one of my most capable and friendly students. She's also one of the most responsive." She had a soft southern accent that seemed to stretch out each syllable for more than one. I could probably listen to this woman talk forever. I smiled at Sasha. I was proud of her, and she smiled back, holding out her hand. I high-fived her, slapping her hand firmly. She looked at me like I was mentally daddy. When someone puts out their hand, you have to put money in it, she winked. In any case, Miss Marshall continued, neither you nor your wife participated in any of our projects or committees this year. Miss Marshall, please call me Gianna, she said. Does an OTA count? I asked. Yes, of course, she smiled. Are you a member of OTA? Well, no, I said, but my wife is present. She attends each of these meetings on Wednesday evenings. She never missed one. Miss Marshall's face changed in front of me. Maybe I'm wrong, she said, but OTA meets on Tuesdays, and only on the third Tuesday of every month. My face fell too. I needed to find out what was going on with Dana. Why don't you choose one of our committees or clubs to get involved anyway, she said. And if your wife ends up in OTA, then everything is fine with you, she said this with all the warmth in her voice. It was clear that she understood what I was going through. I looked through the list of activities and ultimately decided on Trek. I think I could help with that, I said. I'm no expert, but I run every day and have competed in several marathons. That would be ideal, she said. They meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 in the evening. On the way home, Sasha and I stopped at McDonald's. It wasn't the most nutritious dinner, but she liked it, and it didn't require me to cook. I knew that there was no chance that Dana would come home before me, even though she finished work before me. Some guys like to sit in their favorite chairs when they think, while others like to take long walks. My favorite thing to think about is washing my red Mustang GT. While I was rinsing the car, I began to organize my thoughts about Dana's behavior. I knew that PTA meetings were only held once a month, not every week. Dana joined the parent committee almost 2 months ago. This means that whatever she does, she has done it 6 or 8 times already. While I was soaping the car, I called a friend. Hey, Hop, I said into the phone. Hey, Luke. How are you? He asked. Too bad, I laughed. Remember when you thought Tia was cheating on you? What was the name of the agency you used? Oh God, don't remind me of that, he laughed. I just made some lawyers and private investigators richer. Well, I told you she didn't cheat on you, I said. She took classes at a community college because she thought you were embarrassed by her accent and limited English. Yes, I remember, he laughed. So, the agency was called Ponderosa Investigations. They're in the reference book, and they're good. Thanks, Hop, I said, hanging up. I've known Hop Singh since we were kids playing baseball. I called for information and received a number for Ponderosa Investigations. I called them and was told that someone would arrive in a few minutes since they were very close to my house. I was polishing my GT's chrome wheels when a car pulled up. I saw the man come out and take out a pair of sunglasses and put them on. Your chrome is so bright, I thought I was going blind, he said. My dad had a 1970 Mustang Boss 302 that he took care of like you take care of this car, I nodded. I love the old Mustangs too. I'm Lucas McCain, I said, holding out my hand. My friends call me Luke. He stood up and looked at me. Joseph Cartwright, he replied. His handshake was strong, and I trusted him. He didn't look like your average tall, lean private detective. In fact, he was only about 5 feet 4 inches tall. My friends call me Little Joe. I understood where this nickname came from. Let's go into the house and talk, I said. On the way to the house, I explained my suspicions to him. He toured the house and told me about the packages they offered. He ended up installing a recording device on his phone. I gave him her cell number and sent him a payment. They can probably monitor those calls too, he said. Then he installed several tiny cameras throughout the house. I had the option of watching the camera feeds myself or receiving a weekly or daily DVD. I chose the cheaper option with the weekly DVD. How much is it? I asked him. How much are you willing to pay for peace of mind? He answered. This told me that it would be quite expensive. In the end, one way or another, you will find it worth it, he smiled. Okay, explain this to me, I said. Well, if she's not cheating on you, you can get rid of all these nagging doubts, he said. You can trust her again and work on strengthening your marriage. All the tension this causes you will disappear, so you can relax, he he exhaled, letting go of all the tension. I understood his point. On the other hand, if she cheats on you, not only will you know it, but you will have all the evidence you need to face her or even get a divorce if necessary, he said. That way, no one can make a fool of you with some shameful affair that went on for years. You will be able to move on with your life, one way or another. We'll be in touch, he said as he left. I went back to polishing the car. About half an hour after he left, Dana returned home. She was cheerful and came over to watch me work. This is new, Dana. I don't like it when someone stands behind me while I'm working, I said. It's not your fault, it's me. It just gets on my nerves, okay honey? I'll see you when you come in, she said. After I finished washing the car, Dana sat next to me while I watched TV. She was unusually damn friendly all of a sudden. I got up and went to take a shower. When I got out of the shower, she was still there. I sat in an armchair instead of on the sofa. I'm going to bed, she said. Will you come? I'll come by later. I just want to watch the news, I said. I pretended to fall asleep on the couch. When she came in to supposedly wake me up to go to bed, I just rolled over as if I was deeply asleep. The next morning, I got up earlier than usual. I got ready for work and grabbed a cup of coffee. Dana and Sasha were just wandering into the kitchen when I left. I kissed my daughter goodbye while Dana looked into the refrigerator. By the time she realized I was leaving, the door had already closed. She called me at work later in the morning. Hey, you left without saying goodbye to me this morning, she said. What have I done? I asked. What do you mean, Dana? I asked again. Well, I wanted to. She said. I just let it go. I was smart enough not to say the first thing that came to mind. If I had said, I'm sure whoever you're sleeping with will appreciate it, that would only have let her know that I had a suspicion. Since I didn't have the evidence yet, I didn't see the point in stirring up a possible problem. I took Hop Singh's lesson to heart. Oh, I wanted to remind you that I have. She began. I know you have a PTA meeting this evening, Dana, I said coldly. We'll talk later. I'm at work. I hung up. Long live the lesson of Hop Singh, I thought. There's no point in standing by and watching this in action. Once I have proof, I want to act quickly. I called Hop again. Hey, Hop, who was the lawyer your aunt used for her divorce? I asked. I don't remember, he said. I can give you the number of the one I was going to use. No, damn it, I said sharply. He was too damn friendly. I remember he kept talking about all this sitting and discussing nonsense. He talked about rationality and sharing. All this talk about joint decisions and maturity pisses me off. I want that lawyer who ruined your uncle. Okay, calm down, Luke. I'll call her right now and find out the number for you. Are you sure something is going on? He asked. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, I said. Okay, I'll call you back right away, he said, hanging up. Over the next few minutes, I actually worked. I processed orders for a couple of clients and arranged for the items they needed to be shipped overseas. When the phone rang again, I answered on the first ring. Her name is Wilson, Hop said. She works at the Hart Agency. From what I've heard, she's the toughest divorce lawyer in the state. They call her the Barracuda. Are you sure you want? Thanks, Hop, I said, then I hung up. I called the help desk and got a number for the Hart Agency. I asked the person who answered to connect me with Wilson. The phone started ringing again. When my call was transferred, a voice snapped, "Damn it, what do you need now?" The voice on the phone was so loud and angry that I was scared. I almost hung up immediately. So much rage and irritation emanated from this single question that I wondered how a person with such a character could work with the public. I'm looking for Wilson, I said politely. Sorry, it's me, said an almost melodious female voice. Sorry for yelling at you like that. I thought you were my ex-husband. He's been calling me early in the morning a lot lately to piss me off. I found my lawyer. I was sure of this for two reasons. First of all, from the sound of her voice, I was sure that this woman was not taking hostages, and that was what I needed. Second, she was divorced, so I'm sure she can understand the rage and pain that a difficult breakup can cause. I want you to represent me in my divorce, I said. Sorry, I don't think so, she said. Lately, because of my reputation, I've been getting a lot of calls from men who want me to represent them so their wives won't hire me. In my opinion, if you cheated on her, you deserve everything that's coming to you. If you men at least once thought about something other than you understand, the world would be a better place. Can you step down from your pulpit long enough for me to explain the situation? I asked sharply. First of all, I have never cheated on my wife in all the time we have been together. She is the one who cheats on me, and she not only cheats, but also on our beautiful little daughter. I have been feeling like a single father for several months now, and I finally understand why. I don't have proof yet, but the detective agency is looking into this. I want to act quickly so that all this is resolved by summer to have the least impact on my daughter. I'm really sorry, she said. Her whole demeanor changed. We made an appointment for later that day to discuss the details and hung up. Throughout the rest of the workday, I really tried to concentrate on my work, but I was distracted. I was constantly trying to figure out what went wrong. I spent a few seconds clenching my hands and thinking about where I had failed her. Then I came to my senses and started trying to figure out how stupid she would have to be to ever cheat on me. A few minutes before 3 in the afternoon, my phone rang again. I answered it. A soft and sensual voice with a slight accent instantly took me back to the past. I hope you don't mind me calling, she said. I just wanted to remind you that our first event is tomorrow afternoon. I got lost in her voice again. Okay, I said. Laughter came from her, even her laugh was sweet and funny. The kids will come around 5, she said. We should be there a little earlier. We're something comfortable to run in. Tomorrow, we'll probably just do a slow, easy group run. Bye. All my thoughts about Dana disappeared somehow when Gianna said bye. It meant so much more than just goodbye. There was a hint of playfulness and even a little I don't really want to stop talking. It also made me wonder if it meant see you soon, but I was sure that these were just my fantasies. I picked Sasha up from school, and we went home. We played Little Big Planet together on our PlayStation 3 for a couple of hours. I cooked steaks for us and made a small salad. After dinner, Sasha went to her room to do homework and talk about boys with one of her friends. I sat down at the computer to look for new items for my Mustang on some of my favorite auto parts sites. After convincing myself that my car really needed a spoiler, I went back to the PS3 and started watching Iron Man 2 on Blu-ray. I turned up the volume so loud that I didn't hear when Dana came in. She hugged me and tried to kiss me. I quickly stood up as if she startled me, moving away from her. That's what you get for blasting the volume so loud, she laughed. You know you shouldn't make it so loud. How is Sasha supposed to sleep? Sorry, I said, turning back to the TV. Wait a minute, she said. What's that smell? Did you fry something? Just steaks for me and Sasha, I answered. We didn't think you'd be hungry when you came. You usually go straight to take a shower and relax after your, meetings. She could hardly look me in the eyes. She simply nodded and went into the bedroom. I couldn't tell if I had given anything away or if she was just feeling guilty, and I didn't care which of these options was true. I just wanted it all to end. I thought about all the financial and other obligations, and Wilson wanted me to gather by our next meeting in order to expedite the divorce. I needed income and tax returns for both of us, a list of assets with their values, and a list of all our responsibilities towards Sasha, specifying who was responsible for what. Since our state recognizes community property, it was understood that any property division would likely be 50-50ths. I like the idea of just going our separate ways. She keeps hers, I keep mine. Since I earn more, I hoped the court would balance alimony with child support. I would take my daughter with me, and Dana would have free access to her. She wouldn't pay child support, and I wouldn't seek it from her. Since the house we lived in belonged to my parents, there was no chance she would get it. We would have to divide the furniture and everything else. Again, I just wanted this to be over so I could move on. Will you come to bed? She asked after a while. Maybe later, I said. Luke, what's going on? She asked. You've been avoiding me for the past 2 days. I want to know why. Did I do something to upset you? Dana, for the past 2 months, you've been distant and acting strangely towards Sasha and me. Do you want to tell us why? What about these mood swings you go through? We never know which Dana will come home. Maybe we've just been giving you space so you can get your head out of your, What? She asked. Maybe we've just been giving you space so you can get your head out of your 5th place, I said. I didn't mean to start this, but it all came out. I stood up and grabbed my car keys before I said anything I might regret. Where are you going? She asked. She looked like she was on the verge of tears. I'm going for a drive to calm down before this gets out of control, I said. Do you want me to come with you? Maybe we could talk. No, there's no point in waking up Sasha because we're not getting along, I said. Or were you planning to leave our daughter home alone while we were both out? Maybe you just forgot about that because I'm usually the one doing it. Dana cried. She reached out to me, and I stepped away from her. Luke, I love you, and I love Sasha too. You know that. You have a strange way of showing it, I muttered. When I closed the door, driving my Mustang at night had its own magic. The faces of the people on the street as I drove by were amusing to watch. They heard the car's engine a little before they saw the car itself. They continued to stare at me long after I had passed. While I was driving, I wondered what was going on in Dana's head. She had a husband and daughter who idolized her. Why did she risk this to sleep with another man? Our nightlife was quite active until 2 days ago. Besides, I wasn't exactly a slouch in bed. I just couldn't understand. Maybe she's tired of what we have. Maybe I was just thinking like a man. Maybe when someone cheats, it's not always about intim. I may or may not have done something completely different, but it had to be more than just Knight or me, because she felt differently about Sasha too. I drove around the city, using up gas for about an hour, before heading home. When I arrived, all the lights were off, so I assumed Dana was asleep. I quickly took a shower and climbed into bed. My goal was to stay as far away from her as possible, at least until I found out if she really cheated on me. During my overnight drive, I came up with at least 5 or 6 reasons for her strange behavior. Perhaps Dana had a secret gambling addiction. One of my mom's friends went through this. She had been sneaking out of the house and going to the casino once or twice a week for a couple of years before her husband found out. He would never have known if she hadn't gotten into trouble and started missing mortgage payments. Once she missed her 3rd payment, the mortgage company called him at work and all hell broke loose. But in the end, they helped her and they stayed together. Another possibility was that Dana was hooked on some kind of illegal substance. It seems how damaged I was that I would rather have her gamble or do pills than sleep with someone else. Almost immediately after my head hit the pillow, she snuck up on me. I'm sorry, she said. I've been stressed at work lately. I guess I didn't realize it until you told me. Is there anything I can do to get you to forgive me? Treat Sasha better, I answered sharply. Well, I was thinking about something more personal right now, she said, running her hands up and down my stomach. When her hand came closer, I grabbed her hand and moved it away. What's wrong? She asked. I could tell she was a little shocked. In 14 years, I have never been in a bad mood. I need to go to bed, I said. I have a big day tomorrow, so I need all my strength. Then I turned over and moved even further away from her, but she began. Good night, Dana, I said. The next morning, for some reason, I felt great. I went through the files in our home office and made copies of all the tax documents that Ann Wilson requested. Within a few hours, Barracuda will have all the information necessary to proceed with my divorce. All that was needed now was evidence. I was really hoping that little Joe had something for me. I've heard a couple of things over the years from married and divorced couples that I thought could always be true. One of them is the old story about how you can't turn off love like a switch. If you've never really loved the person, I now truly believe that this is not true. I think it depends on the situation and the people involved. In my case, until 3 days ago, I loved Dana with all my heart and soul. She is the mother of my daughter, and I really thought and hoped that we would grow old together. But realizing that she betrayed me simply changed my feelings toward her. If she cheated on me, we could grow old together, but it wouldn't be together. The second fable is that the husband never knows when his wife is cheating. Men are always portrayed as ignorant. If the poor guy didn't come home early and find someone else's car in the yard, he would never have known. Even then, sometimes the wife came up with a cunning lie and convinced the guy that nothing was happening. In fact, the only way the husband will find out is if he catches them in the act. None of these scenarios described me at all. I needed to get Dana out of my life, but that wouldn't be completely possible for a while. She is Sasha's mother. We will have custody issues for at least the next 8 years. Then, we'll both probably have to attend graduations and her wedding. Then there will be births of children. Hopefully, in a few years, I will find someone else and forget about her cheating. Maybe my skin will stop crawling when I see her at parent-teacher meetings. I sent copies of the documents to Anne's office. This way, she could start working on the papers. My day dragged on after that. I kept remembering how much I loved Dana when we first got together. I needed to collect my thoughts. My mood swings were just as bad as hers. I constantly wavered between hating her and wishing she wouldn't do this so we could stay together. I thought about marriage counseling. I thought about trying to forgive her and get over it. This thought lasted about a picosecond. It was simply impossible to forgive her if this was true. I also considered the fact that I was at fault too. That is, I from time to time fantasized about other women. I even had a little mental crush on Dana's new teacher all week. But there's a difference between thinking about someone in favorable terms and actually having an intim outside of marriage. Most guys will always look at hot women and think about it. But when you actually do something about it, a line has been crossed. Dana called me at work, and I didn't pick up. She tried to call me on my cell phone, but I didn't answer either. She left me a message telling me how much she loves me and that we need to talk. I deleted it after listening. He picked Sasha up from school at the usual time. She was excited about something, but I didn't remember what was supposed to happen that day. "Should we eat first or go straight to the park?" asked Sasha. "We're going to the park today?" I asked. "Oh no," she said, "you forgot, didn't you? Today you were supposed to help at the athletics club." We went home, and I changed into a tracksuit. I thought this is what the volunteers and trainers would wear. I was about to leave when Sasha told me to take the iPad. I pulled it out and handed it to her. "Thank you, Dad," she said. "That way, I'll have something to do while I watch you watch people running." When we got to the park, I looked around to see where all the kids were. The park was shaped like a bowl, parking was at the top, and you had to walk downhill to get to the trails and other activities the park had to offer. Just beyond the unused tennis courts, I saw a group of familiar faces as well as a few parents. I saw a couple of kids that Sasha hung out with from time to time and their moms or dads. I walked over and joined the group. A few minutes later, I looked up the hill again and saw a Jeep pull into the parking lot next to my Mustang. Gianna came out of the car and talked to Sasha as she walked down the hill. I noticed that she was also wearing a tracksuit. I think all the dads there gulped when she walked up and introduced herself. One guy who just a few seconds ago was talking about how glad he would be when the teacher came so he could leave sat down and watched internally. I laughed until I dropped. Apparently, it had the same effect on them as it did on me. Wait until they hear that voice in her accent. Gianna called all the children and introduced me as her assistant or second coach. She explained that it was just a running club and not an official team. "Now we get together to run twice a week," she said, "but I expect you to run on your own too. If we do well, there will be tryouts for the cross-country team in the fall, and we will meet other elementary schools." She told the parents they could either stay or return in an hour to pick up their children. Most of them left before she was ready to run. When she took off her sweatpants and stood in shorts, all the men decided to stay. We gathered all the kids together, and after a short warm-up, we went on a slow group run along the trails. I took a position following the group in case anyone got hurt or couldn't keep up with the very slow pace we were running at. After a while, it became clear that all the children were capable of running faster than we ran that day. Even the stocky kids were ahead of me. Gianna slowly came back to me on the second lap of the track. "Hi," she said, smiling. "Are you okay?" I nodded my head. "Is this bad?" she asked. I thought about it. And I guess I wanted to apologize to you. What do you need to apologize for? I asked. Well, I replayed our conversation in my mind a couple of times. I think I was kind of insensitive, she said. How could you know that I was so stupid as to believe that my wife was an OTA and never checked the dates of the meetings? I asked. It's not stupid, she said. It's called trust. This is good. This is a sign of a good person. If I'm a good person, why do I feel so bad? I asked her. Oh, it really hurts at first, she said, but then after a while, it gets even worse. I smiled at her expression and tone. Some children even noticed a sour note in her voice. It looks like you were there, I said. But I find it so hard to believe. Why? Because I'm cute, she laughed. Her laugh was completely ruined. It all started with laughter and ended with snorting. My ex was so jealous of every man who even looked sideways at me that I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. I would really like someone to give me the simple gift you give your wife. Trust actually means a lot. If you don't trust someone, how can you even believe that you love them? On the other hand, although he didn't trust me enough to abandon my car, he was the one sleeping next to me. My mouth dropped open. He was an explorer, therefore, after he conquered me, he needed to find new conquests so as not to get bored. He fought the divorce tooth and nail, but finally, it was over, and I moved on. That was 3 years ago, and I'm just getting to the point where I can handle being with men. Then I'll try not to act like a man, I said. Damn it, I hate them all. I don't hate men, she smiled. I just went through a lot of bitterness and self-pity. Where I come from, if you can't make your man happy, you're just not that much of a woman. You are very womanly, I muttered. The whole time we were running together, it was hard for me to take my eyes off her in those tight shorts. Her legs also seemed incredibly long and shapely. Her breasts, although not as large as Dana's, just fit her body perfectly. Notice that, right? She smiled. Her smile told me a lot. First of all, she was definitely interested in me on some level. It also made me realize that she knew the effect she had on men and wasn't above flaunting it and flirting a little. After the second lap, we took the kids back to the clearing where we started the race. We asked them to do some stretching exercises, told them how well they did, and sent them home with their parents. Several parents came up to ask questions. Most of the men wanted to know how I became her assistant and if there were any other openings. When we returned to the parking lot after the last child left, Sasha jumped out of the car. Dad, can we go to Pizza Hut? She asked. I think so, I smiled. Okay, she said. This is Mrs. Marshall's favorite restaurant. So, Miss Marshall, since this is your favorite restaurant, I hinted. Well, Mr. McCain, I'd love to join you, but why don't we wait 45 minutes? This way, the two of us can shower and change clothes. You should be comfortable eating pizza, she laughed. Okay, see you then, Sasha said. Come on, Dad, you need a shower. 45 minutes later, Sasha and I exited the Mustang in front of the only Pizza Hut in town. We entered and took a table. We were looking over the menu when Gianna showed up, and every man in the place turned to look at her. She smiled at me, and I felt it from across the room. I also felt the gazes of all the men. It made me wonder what it would be like to be in a relationship with someone like her. How do you deal with all the men who constantly harass her? I made a gentlemanly gesture and pulled the chair away from the table for her. We had a great time, and everyone ate a lot of pizza. Sasha spent some time playing video games, so Gianna and I had time to talk. It was some kind of magical evening. Gianna asked me how my divorce process was going, and I told her. She shook her head and told me things would only get worse. Wait until you find yourself in your lawyer's office arguing about a coffee table that neither of you really needs, she said. You just get to the point where you don't want to give that person a single thing more than they've already taken from you. Sorry, this must be a terrible first date for you, she smiled. Is this a date? I said. I wasn't sure I was ready to date yet. What if I find out that Dana didn't cheat on me? What if it was just gambling? That would make me the cheater, then, wouldn't it? I knew I should have said something to her about this, but damn it, I didn't. I just let the evening go as it was. Sasha was so tired from playing video games and hanging out with the kids at Pizza Hut that I had to carry her into the house and put her to bed. We stayed much longer than we had planned, mostly because Gianna was so easy to talk to. She was like a wind-up toy. Just wind her up and watch her go. She'll tell you everything you want to know about anything. I lay down in bed and tried not to wake Dana, but she rolled over and hugged me as soon as I lay down. "Where did you go?" she asked. "Pizza Hut," I answered. "I was wondering why your iPad isn't on the table." "Sasha was playing with her friends and eating pizza while you were surfing the internet and looking for parts for your car, right? You are a good dad, dear, and you are a wonderful husband." "I'm sorry for the way I behaved," she said. "I love you, Luke. Can we start makeup intimate now?" Even in the weak moonlight coming through the windows, I could see Dana's ample breasts. There was no way I was going to sleep with her until I found out if she was cheating on me. "Today is not suitable," I said, leaving her in even more shock than the day before. "I think I have a cold. I don't want to infect you." I wish I could read Dana's thoughts as she sat there looking at me. Did she think I didn't know what was going on? Or did she think I was still stupid? The next morning, I quickly left again after waking up Sasha and asking her not to tell her mother about the night before. She hardly talks to me anyway. "Dad, why should this morning be different?" said Sasha. I was sitting at my desk a couple of hours later, lost in thought as usual, when a package was delivered to me by courier. I subscribed and opened it. Inside the envelope were 2 floppy disks and a stack of papers. I inserted one floppy disk into the computer and started it up. There were 4 files on the disk. I ran the file dated last Wednesday. It showed Dana walking into a cheap motel with a very tall guy. I could barely make out who he was. Then, inside the room, I saw them closer. It was Chuck Connors, the guy she worked with. I looked long enough to realize that they weren't playing cards. Then I turned off the disc. Probably some guys would want to watch the whole thing. Even sicker guys might want to watch this more than once. I just felt nauseous. Of course, Gianna was right about how bad it was, thinking and suspecting that she was cheating on me. It was much worse to see this, especially witnessing some of the things she allowed him to do to her that she never let me even think about. I made a copy of the DVD to send to Anne. I then copied the discs and set copies of both along with a paper detailing who Chuck Connors was, when they met, and other information. I called Ponder Investigations and thanked them for a job well done. I also terminated their services because they were no longer needed and were expensive. And called me a couple of hours later. She said everything was ready, the papers were already prepared. She just needed Chuck's name so I could sue him too. In our state, you can't sue for emotional distress or anything like that. I sued him for mental anguish because of the stress he caused me and my daughter due to his affair with Dana. And told me that there was a very real possibility that we wouldn't get a penny from Chuck. The reason we were suing him was so that his wife and family would find out about his actions and generally ruin his life. When we sued the company they worked for, they both probably would have been fired. With the lawsuit against him in the public domain, anyone who would consider hiring him in the future and did a background check might stumble across it. That was cute, and it was obviously worth every penny she charged me. She also explained to me that, unlike on television, we weren't going to release all our evidence at once. It would be stupid. First, we file for divorce. After signing the agreement on the division of property and its approval by the judge, then we sue Chuck and the company. That way, when the judge approves everything, Dana will have income, so the settlement will be relatively fair. Then, after the judge's approval, we take a stab at Chuck and the company. Since Dana would have lost her job after the agreement was approved, it would not have been our fault that she found herself destitute and homeless. And also told me that I should listen to the audio conversations on disc 2 if I hadn't already, because Dana was thinking about ending her relationship with Chuck. And wanted to know if it mattered to me, and I told her no. I said I needed a day or 2 to decide how and when I wanted to serve the papers. She thought we should do it at Dana's work. The humiliation and shame it would cause by doing it there would be great. It would also serve as notice to the company's senior management that trouble was afoot. I hung up, and although I suppose I should have been happy, smiling was the last thing on my mind. I don't know how I survived the weekend. On Saturday, I took Sasha and a couple of her friends to the zoo. On Sunday, I washed and polished my car again. On Monday, I couldn't bear to sit another day at work, so I took a sick day and took my Mustang to an auto repair shop to have the chin installed. The instructions said it was easy and anyone could do it, but I didn't want to risk my state of mind and ruin the car. While I was waiting for the technicians to install it, I called in and told her that she could give Dana the paperwork at work on Wednesday. As soon as I hung up the phone, it rang again. The caller ID was Dana's number. "Why are you not at work?" she asked. "I'm still not feeling very well, so I decided to do some work on my car," I said. "Why didn't you at least tell me so I knew where you were and didn't look stupid calling your office?" she asked. "We're married, you know." "Sometimes it's hard to tell," I said slowly. "Luke, you know I love you," she said. "And I know I caused it, but I don't know how to fix it without making the situation worse. Can't we just promise each other to never let work stress interfere with our family life again?" "Okay, Dana." "No more stress from work at home," I said. "Me too," she said. "Never again, I promise." "What nonsense," I said. When I hung up, I couldn't believe she thought I would believe this job. She really thinks I'm that stupid. The phone rang again. I was going to give Dana some heat since I was so annoyed with her, but it wasn't her. "Why are you not at work?" Gianna said. Just hearing her voice made me feel better. "I'm depressed," I said. I explained everything to her and told her where I was. "Okay, that's not why I called," she said suddenly. "Sorry, I didn't mean to drag you down by talking about my ruined life." "You're not dragging me down," I said. "And I'm ready to listen to whatever you want to discuss. I'm just afraid that if we constantly talk to each other about our problems, we will become friends." "Oh," I said, suddenly feeling worse. "I kind of thought we were already friends." "Oh, hell no," she said sharply. "Get that thought out of your head right now." "Well, I'll let you go," I said sadly. "I don't want to waste your time." "I called you, Luke," she reminded me. "I wanted to ask you about our second date." "What second date?" I asked. "Luke, you never want to be a girl's friend, and I don't want you to ever think of me as a friend either," she said seriously. "When I got divorced, I had many friends. Most of them were women, but there were also a few men. Many of my friends called to support me during my divorce. Even the guys called me. The problem is that once a person enters the friend zone, it is quite difficult to change their status. I never even thought about sleeping with guys I considered friends. I don't want you to think of me as a friend, okay?" I said. "I'm confused," I said. "What?" "Don't worry about it," she smiled. "I'll take care of it. You're still in shock. I'm just making sure that in a few weeks, when you're really ready to move on, I'll be first in line." "What cue?" I asked. "You work for a relatively large company, right?" she asked. I agreed. "This means that when news of your divorce gets out, there will be a lot of women interested in you, and they'll all be behind me." She smiled slightly. Gianna, if you're in line, there won't be a line," I said. "I'm not stupid enough to miss that you're interested." "Oh, finally a little flattery." "Now that I know you're interested, let's talk about that second date," she said. I was lost in thought. "You know, what are you thinking about?" I asked. I was still very confused. No wonder women think we're clueless. "Well, the second date is a little early for a romantic dress-up dinner, but it's great for another fun outing. The main question is, should I take Sasha with me?" she asked. "Because I know she loves me, but after the second date, we'll have to kiss goodbye, and I'm not sure she loves me that much. Seeing some woman kiss your father can be awkward." "Are you planning to kiss me?" I said. The tightness in my pants made me very glad that I was alone in my office. "Absolutely," she laughed. "After all, we have to follow protocol, right? I could barely stop myself from kissing you at Pizza Hut." "So, when will this happen?" I asked. "The sooner, the better," she said. "How about tomorrow after practice?" I'll pack a picnic, and the four of us will just have a picnic right there in the park. After everyone leaves, we can even roast marshmallows." Which four are you talking about?" I asked. "You, me, Sasha, and her best friend Beth," she smiled slightly. "So, Sasha will be occupied while we chat." "Okay," I said, hoping my head would stop spinning. "See you then." "Bye," she said, yet her voice remained seductive. That accent. If all the girls in the South were like her, I wondered why anyone ever left the South. When I picked Sasha up from school, I looked around the parking lot but didn't see Gianna's Jeep. "She's not here, Dad," Sasha laughed. "She had some shopping to do." We both know why. I looked at Sasha, and she was smiling. I guessed that she was okay. When we got home, Dana was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Sasha and I both looked at her as if she were an alien. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked. "We didn't know you could cook," said Sasha. "Why are you home?" I asked. "I just decided not to stay at work late today," Dana said, smiling. "I just wanted to spend time with my family." "When will they come?" Sasha asked. "I'm pretty busy today. I have a lot of homework. I'm going to take pictures of the car with the new bumper and maybe take it out on the roads around the airport where there's not much traffic and test it," I said. Sasha went into the kitchen and took a couple of pieces of pizza that we had brought the day before. She heated them in the microwave while Dana looked at her with obvious displeasure. "Bye, Dad," Sasha said, heading to her room. This left me alone with Dana. "I thought," she said, smiling at me, "what do you think about having another child?" It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I managed to keep a straight face. I didn't laugh in her face or throw up. "I'm going to go now and take pictures of the car," I said. "What about my idea?" she asked plaintively. "I wanted to start as soon as possible." I'll think about it," I said, leaving the house. I took about 50 pictures of the car from different angles with my digital camera. I had photos of the car at every stage of its development, from completely stock to now. I didn't like leaving my daughter alone with Dana, but I really needed a distraction. As I drove down the road, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There were only two reasons why Dana suddenly became so affectionate. Either she really was trying to save our marriage, or she was trying to pull more of her tricks on me. If she was really trying to save the marriage, shouldn't I have at least given her a chance to try? Then there was this sudden desire to have another child. Was this another tactic to save our marriage? Maybe she somehow suspected that I knew about her affair and thought that getting pregnant with me again would keep me from leaving her. Or was there something even worse ahead? Was she already pregnant with his child and trying to force me to have an intim with her so she could claim the baby as mine? This was another reason why I wasn't going to have a night with her. Then, of course, there was the guilt. Was I suddenly so insistent on kicking her out of my life because she hurt me and broke our marriage vows? Or was it because I had someone better? Since we were still married, wasn't I just like her? I apparently started dating before I filed for divorce. I didn't start anything, but I still did it. I guess it all comes down to timing. Dana cheated on me for over a month. In my mind, the moment she spread her legs in front of Chuck Connors, our marriage was over. So, at least for me, it's completely normal to look for happiness elsewhere. As for children, if Dana is pregnant, we will do a DNA test. If it's my child, I'll pay child support and be a part of his or her life. But it's over between me and Dana. There's no way to go back after what she did. I drove the car much longer than necessary. I enjoyed being in my car, but eventually I had to go home. As expected, Dana was still awake. "Ready, Dad?" she asked. "No," I answered honestly. "Dana, our problems are bigger than you think. You treating me and Sasha like crap for almost 2 months and then deciding everything is fine doesn't work for me. I don't see how having another child could improve an already lousy situation." She looked really hurt. "But Luke, I love you," she said. "I love you too, Dana," I said, and I meant it. "But I don't think it's something we can fix overnight." She looked very hurt. "Then don't worry, Dana," I said. "It's not that bad. We haven't had an intimate in weeks, so don't worry about it." "That's probably why I'm so excited," she said. I missed you. She hugged me and ran her hand over my groin. Dana, this won't happen. Get away from me, I replied sharply. I went into the bedroom and left her there crying. The next morning, all the tension in me disappeared. Dana was still in the living room. She looked terrible. I took a shower, got dressed, and went to work. After work, I changed clothes in the office, picked up Sasha, and went to the usual children and parents training session. As usual, everyone gathered there. I noticed how some women looked at me. Some of them were married but still watched. What the hell is wrong with the water? There seems to be an epidemic of married women chasing other people's men, I muttered to myself. Hey, Luke, Jana said, approaching. Remember, I'm first in line. She moved her arms around my waist in a friendly but intimate way. There was nothing inappropriate about it. It wasn't even a hug, but it was familiar enough to let the other women there know she was claiming her territory. We did the same group run as last time but increased the pace slightly, just enough so that all the children could keep up. Some felt uncomfortable. Those who easily kept the pace would probably be our track and field team. The rest will remain at the club until they are ready to move to the next level. After practice, most of the kids were tired and couldn't wait to get into their parents' cars. Of course, most of the dads wanted to stay and stare at Gianna as much as they could, but in the end, it was just the two of us and Beth. Beth's mom didn't pick her up. She was supposed to spend the night with Sasha. We walked to our cars and drove to the picnic area. Sasha and Beth sat on the bench playing games and watching videos on my iPad, while Gianna and I set out the food. Then the magic began. We laid out a blanket and sat on it for a long time, just looking at each other. She had a look in her eyes that I had never seen in Dana. I don't know how to describe it, perhaps melancholy mixed with despair, with a small amount of hope for a good dimension, all directed at me. It's too early, she said, then nodded her head towards the girls. But keep that thought. We talked about our lives and what we wanted from them. We discussed dreams and why some things just couldn't be any other way. Among these things were loyalty, honesty, and trust. I asked her why any man in his right mind would ever cheat on her, and she told me that most of the guys she dated only saw her for looks. Once they got used to her appearance, she became just another woman to them, and there would always be someone more beautiful. So, what she was really looking for was someone who loved her for her soul, not someone who liked her looks. She really loved her job, but what she really wanted was simple. She just wanted to be someone's wife and mother. We also talked about what I wanted. My needs were remarkably similar. The girls came up to us several times for snacks and eventually just sat on the blanket with us. Is Miss Marshall your friend now, Dad? Asked Sasha. I think she is, Beth said, but maybe they're just friends because they don't kiss. My mom has 3 boyfriends, and they all kiss her all the time. Well, I think it's time for us to go home, I said. See you at practice on Thursday, Gianna said as she stood up. Yeah, I said. You should follow me home. It's time to move this thing forward. Push what forward? She asked. Divorce and the rest of my life, I smiled. We loaded the kids into Gianna's Jeep and drove to my house. On the way home, I called Chuck. He had just arrived home, which meant Dana must have been on her way. Chuck, this is Lucas McCain, I said cheerfully. Do I know you? He asked. I heard the tension in his voice. I was sure this idiot knew who I was. We don't need to play games, Chuck, I said. You've been sleeping with my wife for about 2 months, so we must be old friends. Considering what we shared, it was her idea, he said quickly. His voice became plaintive. Chuck, I don't care whose idea it was. I just think that as adults, it's time for us all to sit down and discuss our options. So, unless you want me to come to your wife and discuss all this with her, you should come to my house right now. You have 10 minutes to get here. If you take more than 15 minutes from now, I will come to your house, I said. Dana actually arrived home before us. I saw her car when we arrived. As soon as Gianna's Jeep stopped, both girls jumped out and ran towards the house. I stayed to talk to Gianna. This will be interesting, I told her. Luke, don't do anything stupid, she said. She climbed onto the hood of my car and pulled me towards her between her legs. Trust me, I said. I'm not going to do anything stupid. I have nothing against Chuck. He didn't betray me, Dana did. All I want from her is my divorce so I can move on. This should go very smoothly. Well, you forgot something, she said. Then she leaned over and kissed me for one very long moment. The world stopped turning, time stood still, and everything around us simply ceased to matter. The only thing that broke the spell was the sound of Dana screaming as she ran towards us from the house. What the hell are you doing? Dana screamed. Moving on, I said cheerfully. Moving on with what, Dana? She hissed. I raised my hand to silence her. Oh, okay. Chuck is here, I said as he pulled into our yard. Chuck got out of his car and nearly tripped when he saw Gianna. He couldn't take his eyes off her. I hugged her again, and she got into her car and drove out of the yard. Oh my God, this woman is beautiful, Chuck said. Dana just sat there, growing whiter. What are you doing here, Chuck? She asked sharply. Did I leave something in the office? I invited Chuck, I said. Let's go inside so we can talk in peace. We walked in and settled into my living room. Who is this woman? Chuck asked as soon as he sat down. My plan to remain calm and rational suddenly fell apart. Chuck was 3 inches taller than me and 20 pounds heavier, but it didn't matter. I hit him with all my might, his nose exploded, and he fell backwards so hard that he knocked over a chair with him. He touched his nose, saw blood, and stared at me. He tried to get up, and I kicked him in the chest, knocking him down again. Why did you hit me? He shouted. Because I invited you here so we could talk, I hissed. You're a real piece of work, Chuck. You're already married, but you go around trying to have other guys' wives. You've already ruined my marriage to Dana, but before we can even discuss it, you're sniffing around like you're interested in Gianna. She has much more integrity than Dana, but the thought of you looking at her makes me angry. Chuck, I have nothing against you. You didn't betray me, my wife did. If there's anyone I should be mad at, it's her. But I'm not mad at anyone. In fact, I'm happy Dana's now yours. Take her and live happily. Are you kidding? Chuck said. I don't want Dana. I already have a wife. More beautiful, by the way. It was just a night, and it wasn't even good. I just like those big old breasts, the rest is worthless. Believe me, if it weren't so easy, I wouldn't even bother. You're an idiot, Dana, I shouted. I don't want you either. That's why I broke up with you the other day. I started to think that Luke suspected something, and you weren't worth my marriage. Then why did you call me today, you old fart? Chuck replied sharply. Because Luke hasn't slept with me in over a week, she said. Look, you can figure this out when you get back to Chuck's house or wherever you go, I said. What are you talking about, Luke? Dana asked. There was sudden fear in her voice. I already told you, you both acted like you'd been together for over a month. Whatever this may or may not be doesn't have to end. I hope you both will be very happy together. I really mean it. If we'll all pack our things together, you both can be out of here in 20 minutes. Or you can just pack some of her essentials and come back for the rest tomorrow while I'm at work. Work? I said. They both looked at me as if I had 3 heads. Confusion was written all over their faces, and it was hard to see on Chuck's face due to the swelling of his nose and cheek. I'm not taking her anywhere, he said. Oh, yeah? You'll take her, Chuck, I said. I don't care where you take her, but she's yours now. You can take her home with your wife and child, or pay for her motel room, or buy her an apartment. But if you don't want to lose your marriage tonight, something needs to be done. Luke, Dana said slowly, I swear to you that I love only you. Chuck was just a mistake, it was never about love. He just caught me when I was feeling old and vulnerable. He flattered me a lot and made me feel better. You know how I always felt insecure about my height and figure. Tears ran down her cheeks. Please give me another chance. I know it was terrible, but women need to know that they are attractive and can still turn a man on. Dana, did I ever do anything to make you feel unattractive? I always told you that I wanted us to grow old together. There was more between you and me than just looks and intim. I truly loved you. You didn't just cheat on me, you cheated on our daughter, all of our memories, the vows we made to each other, and all of our dreams for the future. You treated us like crap for the last 2 months, but now it's over, I said calmly. Well, what about that girl you just kissed? You're doing the same thing, she exclaimed. No, Dana, that's different, I said. That was the first time I kissed her. We haven't had an intimate yet, and I only met her because of your lies. What lies, Dana? Asked Gianna. I'm Sasha's teacher, I said. If you had gone to PTA meetings in the last 2 months, I would never have met her. This is how it will work, I continued. Tomorrow, my lawyer will serve you with divorce papers. She drew up 2 sets, which set we file is up to you, Dana. Either you sign the amicable ones citing irreconcilable differences as the reason for the divorce, or we'll take the harder route. The papers will provide for separation. I'll stay in the house since it belongs to my parents, and you can't have it anyway. We'll have joint custody of Sasha. She will live with me, and you can visit her as much as you want. Luke, I don't want a divorce, please, she begged. I'll do anything. I just want another chance. You can sleep with that girl a couple of times for revenge, and then we can just forget about it and move on. So, you and Chuck were just about intimate, right? I asked. They both nodded quickly. Well, there's a lot more to Gianna than that, I said. As soon as I'm free of you, I'll marry her. Why don't you two talk about it after I leave? Chuck said. Because she's coming with you, Chuck, I snapped. Either you take her with you, or your marriage will end before you get home. I know you're hurt, Luke, Dana said. I'll go and stay with Mom for a few days until you calm down, and then we can talk. Dana, you're a grown woman. Do what you want, as long as it includes leaving here, I said. Then I went to the kitchen to get something to drink. The next few weeks were interesting. I focused on spoiling my daughter and getting to know Gianna better. We did different things together, but we didn't have a night. We saved that for our wedding night. Dana called me at work and home several times a day. I never answered or responded to any of her calls. I let her have Sasha whenever she wanted. I didn't want to interfere with her time with our daughter. Her mother and father also called me, trying to see if there was any way I could take her back. They told me it was a shame to destroy a family because of one stupid mistake that Dana would regret for the rest of her life. Dana had the right to raise her daughter and live a happy life. I also have the right to a happy life, and I cannot be happy with a woman who cheated on me, especially with someone who had been doing it for more than a month and could be pregnant with someone else's child, I told them. Dana went to visit Gianna at school and begged her to give us another try. Incredibly, they sat down and talked about it. Gianna told her about how her first marriage fell apart and what it was like to do everything you can for someone, only to have that person cheat on you for no reason. I think that gave Dana an idea of what I was going through. I think what hurt Dana the most was when she came into the house to talk to me and saw Gianna and me sitting together on our long porch. Gianna sat and checked her work, and I dozed with my head on her lap. Sasha was sitting on the first step with a phone glued to her head, talking animatedly like all teenagers about some TV show. We looked like a family who loved each other and were very comfortable being together. Then reality began to sink in about what she threw away. She started crying as she looked at us. I was asleep and didn't see it, but Jana woke me up by kissing me and pointing at Dana's retreating back. Go talk to her, Luke, Jana said. I stood up and caught Dana before she got into the car. Dana, did you need to see me for some reason? I asked. I really tried, but it was hard for me to pretend to care, she sobbed. Why haven't you sent the documents back yet? I think I came to talk to you about us, she sobbed. You know, you're doing everything completely wrong. What am I doing wrong? I asked, puzzled by her statement. I was talking to a few of my divorced friends, she said. You should have gotten mad at me and fought over me. Then we had to argue about everything, including custody of Sasha. Then you had to move out and into a small, crappy apartment to be unhappy and lonely. And when I feel like it, I have to offer you 1 or 2 gracious intimate times. Then we must work to be together again, with a clear understanding that I love you, but you are not enough for me. That's why sometimes I'll take a lover, and you won't know, or you'll pretend you don't know because you don't want us to go through the pain of almost losing each other again. Maybe you can take 1, 2, but but it has to be just a night. She was crying now. Chuck was just an intimate, Luke. He wasn't as good as you. I guess I just wanted someone to make me feel nasty and just with me like when I was younger. I'm tired feeling of old age. I had it all for a while. I had it for rough, and I had you for tender and loving night. Then, within the last few weeks, you stopped sleeping with me, and I noticed and got angry, she said. I knew it was wrong, so I stopped. But you had already stopped having an intimate with me, and I became desperate, so I called the idiot again. When I saw you come home with Gianna for the first time, I was furious. Then, when I calmed down, I realized that maybe this could be good for me. I thought that if you had a night with her, when it was all over, we'd be even and I could get you back. She said I went to her school last week and talked to her about it, and she told me a lot of things, not only about you guys, but also about me. Then I realized that I'm really in danger. It's not that she really loves you, probably as much as I do. She will never give up on you. So I decided that my only hope was to turn to you. We have been together for 16 years and married for 14 of them. We have a child together, and until the last 2 months, we were happy. It means something. I will not give up without a fight. Then I came to talk to you today about it and see if we can work something out. I wanted you to give up the divorce. In exchange for this, I would give you 2 months with her, and then we will put our marriage and our family back together. But now I understand that you will never agree to this. You love her too, and you are happy. Even my daughter follows her. You guys are like the family we never were. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks. I really screwed up. This is not at all how it should be. Chuck never loved me. He just used me like a stupid cheap. I found out that he is now sleeping with one of the secretaries. Everyone else at work is divided into 2 categories. Good people, friendly but serious about their work, will have nothing in common with me, and all these sloppy people, guys married or single, think they have the right to just corner me and try to touch me because I'm such a, living in an apartment with my parents and sleeping on their couch. I'm the laughing stock of all our old friends. Remember Sheila? Her husband Bert told her that she should have an affair like I did so he could level up like you did. Half the wives in the city are afraid to even talk about having someone else on the side because their husbands might become the next themselves. Every time I call Sasha, she asks what I want. When I tell her I just want to spend time with her, she asks why. I lost my husband, my best friend, my lover, my daughter, my home, my marriage, my future, and the man I wanted to grow old with for a stupid fling. Chuck came out of that situation free and clear. He didn't lose a damn thing. It seems that you and Sasha are feeling better, and people in the city have something to talk about and laugh at. I'm the only one who got hurt, she cried. Don't we have a way to fix this? She asked. I'm sorry, Dana, I said. You made many comments, of course, you missed even more of them. Like it doesn't really matter what people told you about what was going to happen, each situation is individual. You will never get a house because it was in my family before I met you. I never intended to be mad at Chuck or fight for you because supposedly when we got married that made you mine. The only person who had to fight for you was Chuck. He needed to fight to take you away from me. But once you cheated on me, I didn't want you anymore, so there was nothing to fight for. I broke Chuck's face because he was looking at Gianna. She's the one I really want. But don't worry about Chuck, he'll get what he gets and more, he deserves more. In terms of how people treat you, you get what you deserve. I suffered just like you did when I found out what you did to Chuck, only I didn't do anything to deserve this. As for all the things you lost, you didn't so much lose them as you just threw them away, and they were just picked up by someone who seems to value them much more than you ever did. I stopped and looked at her. And lastly, sometimes when you break something, it just can't be fixed, Dana. It's best to move on and not make the same mistake. It doesn't matter if you've loved someone for 14 years or 14 seconds, when you break their heart, it hurts like hell. And it doesn't matter whether you thought it would be a fleeting fling or a long-term relationship, when you break your promises to those you love, you risk losing that love. Dana, right now I know this is hard for you, but especially when it comes to Sasha, you are her mother and you always will be. I will never stop you from seeing her, and you are always welcome to come visit us. You can come to dinner with us or spend holidays with us. It won't hurt Gianna, but there will never be a chance for you and me again. Dana signed the papers, and our divorce went through. I then sued Chuck Connors for the emotional distress he caused me and my daughter. I also sued the company he and Donna worked for. Dana and Chuck were fired. Chuck's wife sued him and extracted every last penny from him, and he eventually left her. We never heard from Chuck again. Dana ended up living with her parents permanently. She rarely left the house and became something of a recluse. My daughter Sasha visited her often, and they were never as close as Sasha was with Gianna, but they got along better than before. I probably never forgave Dana for how she hurt me, so I never trusted her again, although Gianna more than mended my broken heart and gave me so much love that I never looked back. I was never able to forgive Dana. Dana and Gianna eventually became friends, and Gianna was one of the few people who could get Dana to leave the house. It took 20 years and a very tragic set of circumstances for me to spend time with Dana. Sasha grew up, got married, and started a family. I spent 20 wonderful, loving years with Gianna. We never had children, but that didn't matter because Gianna loved Sasha like she was her own. I was shocked one morning when I woke up to find Gianna cold and motionless next to me. It was later discovered that she had suffered a cerebral hemorrhage while she was sleeping. She died with a smile on her face, cuddled in my arms. Doctors swore she probably died instantly and felt nothing. I became a hermit and didn't talk to anyone or leave the house for a long time. Sasha stayed with me for about 6 weeks, but in the end, she couldn't convince me to come home to her and her family. Hell, I was only 55. I was still young and healthy, but I just couldn't bring myself to do anything without Gianna's smile. Life seemed meaningless. I drank too much and ate too little. The first 2 days after my daughter returned home to her family, I promised her that I would call her every day, take care of myself, and come see her if I got too sad. I have not fulfilled any of these promises. On the 3rd day after my daughter left, everything changed. I woke up to the smell of frying bacon. Since I had not eaten for several days, the smell was incredibly appetizing. I wanted bacon like never before. I stood up and staggered to the kitchen. "What the hell are you doing here?" I growled. "Our daughter made me promise to take care of you before she left. In fact, she was the second of your women to ask me to do so. Gianna always told me that if anything happened to her, she would expect me to come back into your life. So here I am. What if I don't want you back in my life?" I asked. "You can go, just leave the bacon," she said simply. "How is it not?" I asked. "Luke, I know you still hate me," she said. "I really messed up. I betrayed you with a man who cheated on his own wife with me, not because he loved me but because he just wanted to use me for night. I lost the love of my life for allowing this. It's easy for a person to use my body. I lost you, our daughter for a time, and the wonderful life that should have been mine." She cried a little. "You know, I went a little crazy for a while. I was in therapy, and it didn't help. I was bitter and angry for a long time. Then I made a new friend. She helped me understand that despite what I had done, possibly the biggest mistake of my life, I didn't end my life. My life should have gone on. I should have picked myself up and moved forward. She made me start dating again after some time. These dates that I went on sometimes usually ended in disaster. At first, it was because I could tell guys didn't really want a serious relationship with me. They just saw big breasts and a big fifth place and wanted to have an intim with me. I've been down this road before and that mistake cost me my happiness, so I wasn't going to put up with it again. Later on, I actually dated a couple of really nice guys, one of whom wanted to marry me. But Luke, I couldn't do it. My friend, who I'm sure you know was Gianna, told me that the reason I couldn't get engaged to them was that I still love you. We both cried because of the tragedy of this whole situation. It was sad for both of us. I cried because my stupidity cost me love and my life with the only man I've ever truly loved. She cried because she was truly my friend. She cared about me and felt my pain, but she would never let you go. She loved you too much to ever do that or even share you. After all, she told me that if anything happened to her, I would need to take care of you and maybe then I could get you back. I still didn't even want to look at Dana. The first few days were terrible. Dana came to the house every day. She threw out all my alcohol, cleaned the house, cooked food for me, and even made me shave and groom myself. At first, she only stayed for a while, but over time her visits became longer and longer. After a month, I guess I just got used to her presence. After 2 months, she stopped going home. She was just sleeping in the guest room. She would clean the house and do everything she could to make my life better, and then go back to her room. Of course, there were several incidents. I went into the bathroom and saw her there, or saw her coming out of the shower and caught a glimpse of her partially without clothes body. 3 months after Gianna died, Dana made me wash my car. I still drove the Mustang, of course. I already had 4 of them over the years. I just couldn't bring myself to sell or trade them. Why should I wash my car? I grumbled at her. Luke, tomorrow will be 3 months since Gianna passed away. I know it's painful, but you haven't visited her grave since the funeral. This is another big step for you to come to terms with this. It won't be easy, it will hurt like hell, but you need to do it to move on in life. She will always be a part of you, and you will always remember her, but you still have many years ahead of you before you meet her in heaven, she said. It's still a long way off, so you need to accept it and move on. I'll probably die before you see her again. Of course, I'll probably go to hell. There must be a special place in hell reserved for people who cheat on the love of my life, she said. Just imagine you and Gianna sitting on a cloud, putting on wings and playing little harps while I fry in a frying pan below, she said with a hint of a smile. Don't worry, I smiled back. If that happened, I would ease your suffering. This was a big breakthrough for us. After that, we really started talking more and doing things together. It wasn't romantic, it was more like a friendship, but we were both happy with it. It took over a year before we ended up in bed together. It was her birthday, and I forgot about it until a card from our daughter arrived in the mail and reminded me. I felt terrible. I was going to rush to the store and try to buy her a last-minute gift, but she told me there was something better I could give her. What do you want? I asked. 1 hour tonight, fully clothed, in your bed with your arms around me, she said nervously. That's not a gift, I said. This will mean more to me than anything else in the world, she said. I'm not asking you for a night, I just want you to hold me. So that evening, we went to bed early. Dana returned to the room that was once ours. She was wearing a long, very warm flannel nightgown. She crawled under my blanket with the biggest smile on her face. I hugged her, and she sighed. Nothing happened that night except we slept together all night because we both fell asleep. I woke up the next morning with one hand on one of her large breasts. We got out of bed awkwardly, but for the next few days, Dana walked around with a smile. About a week later, Dana sprained her ankle, and I found myself caring for her. It was the least I could do after everything she had done for me. Besides, we lived in the same house, and I knew that neither of us wanted her to return to the house that she had inherited from her parents when they died. After the first night when she constantly called me from her room at night, I simply moved her to my room so that I could hear her better. Her ankle was sore for a couple of weeks, and I really believed she used it to stay in my room longer. She just seemed to like that her ankle hurt. After 2 weeks of sleeping together, Dana simply did not return to her room. We never talked about this. One night, about a week later, it happened. I woke up as usual with Dana pressed against me. I couldn't hold back, and we had an intim. Since then, we have been living together. We're not married, we just live together. We love each other and have a fulfilling night life, but we're not bound by law. I think we both see this ending someday and just want to enjoy each other. Something really funny happened yesterday. After another night of love, Dana got up to make us breakfast. We wanted to get on the road early because we were taking the Mustang to Detroit for the Woodward cruise. I had just gotten out of the shower when I heard Dana scream. Never, she screamed. Not this time. Then I heard the sound of paper being violently torn, followed by silence. I walked into the kitchen, wondering what made her react so strongly. I found her calmly preparing our breakfast. The mail had already been delivered, and there were several envelopes on the table. I noticed several pieces of torn paper by the trash can in the kitchen and looked inside to see what she had torn. Just spam, she said, smiling. Breakfast will be ready in 20 minutes, and then we'll leave. I nodded at her, hugged her, and then, while she wasn't looking, collected the pieces of paper from the trash can. I went into the basement and pieced the letter together like a puzzle. As soon as I realized what it was, I laughed out loud. This was an invitation for Dana to join the school's parent committee. What do you think of our story today? I think the husband was absolutely right to hire a private investigator to make sure his wife was faithful. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments. See you in the comments.